Good evening, Jamestown. I'm Matthew Nies with your Tuesday, March 15th, 2011 JCTV News Update. More chaos today in Japan after an explosion at one nuclear reactor damaged the vessel containing the reactor's nuclear core, while a fire at another reactor spewed large amounts of radioactive material into the air. The explosion diminished hopes that engineers at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station could cool down the reactor by pumping in seawater. The New York Times reports that Japanese Prime Minister Naoto Kan addressed the nation earlier today. Kan urged for calm, but also added that there was a high risk of further nuclear leakage. Already, the 3 explosions in 4 days at the plant have made it the worst nuclear accident since the Chernobyl reactor disaster a quarter century ago. Meanwhile, nuclear fallout wasn't the only thing troubling Japan today, as ocean waves began washing up hundreds of bodies on the beaches of northeastern Japan. Reports say as many as 2,000 bodies have already washed ashore. However, that number is expected to rise as officials estimate that more than 10,000 people may have been swept away from one town alone. The catastrophe is greatly affecting economies around the world too, particularly Japan's, which is the world's 3rd largest. Japanese stocks dropped more than 10% today, while the American Treasury bond was down more than 3%, and European markets were down more than 4%. Well, the Associated Press reports that the North Dakota State House is considering a bill that would establish interest-free loans and could help solve housing shortages in western North Dakota. The bill would set up a new Bank of North Dakota fund and would focus on low-income and rural housing developments. The program would offer loans of up to $200,000 to projects that have secured most of their funding but need a little extra aid to get started. Any person or business could invest in the fund and receive a one-time state tax credit of half of their investment, up to $4 million. Supporters of the bill say the state lacks affordable housing, especially in western North Dakota's oil-producing region. The House Finance and Taxation Committee took no action on the bill today, but the bill has already been unanimously approved in the Senate. Well, last night there was a bit of a scare in Jamestown College's cafeteria as the Student Media Center's advertising manager, Joseph Sharp, had a choking incident. Mr. Sharp is joining us in studio today to tell us a little bit more about the incident. Thank you for joining us today, Joe.
Oh, no problem.
Now, Joe, tell me exactly what it is that happened.
I was having my supper like any other night, and all it's typical of me is to bite off more than I can chew and talk too much while I eat. And before I knew it, I wasn't breathing.
So what happened? I heard there was a little bit of a Heimlich maneuver going on, and the ambulance was called. Can you run me through that a little bit?
Well, basically what happened is I was sitting with 2 students, Ben Hughes and Alex Smith, 2 freshmen, and I started hitting my chest thinking that might get me through it. Well, I realized nothing was doing there. So I did the universal distress sign for choking, and for a few seconds they didn't believe me, but it clicked for Ben after a few seconds, and he jumped up and sprinted around and took me up and started giving me the Heimlich. After this, Professor Creasy, one of our media professors, took over, and he finished the job. And Professor Creasy used to be a paramedic, so I was very grateful to have his assistance with that.
Now, I heard something about pneumonia, and you went to Fargo, is that correct?
Well, I didn't actually make it to Fargo. I'll start with the trip to Fargo. As I was at the hospital, they told me that there was more than likely still something lodged in my esophagus, and they thought, we're going to have to send you to Fargo to have a specialist work on you. Well, halfway to Valley City, my friend quickly picked up the phone, and when I called him and said he'd take me to Fargo, well, what ended up happening was halfway to Valley City, something suddenly changed. I could breathe. I was comfortable again and drank some water. I didn't have to go to Fargo. And as far as pneumonia, one of the risks associated with choking is that the foreign matter can get into your lungs and cause an infection. And right now there is a risk that I may develop pneumonia, but the doctors aren't worried. I'm on antibiotics. So I think that I should make it through this one just fine.
So you're doing okay then?
Oh, I am fine. You know, as I was listening to the story about Japan earlier, it really gave me a lot of perspective that this problem is nothing compared to what those people are facing.
Definitely. Well, our prayers are out there with the people in Japan, and I'm glad to hear you're doing better, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Well, Friday's nasty blizzard might be winter's parting gift to us. Well, let's hope at least. For the next 5 days, we can expect some warming temperatures and plenty of moisture, and not just melting snow either. In fact, there is so much moisture around that the National Weather Service has issued a flood warning for Stutsman County through Saturday. Tomorrow should be partly sunny with a high near 42 degrees with an 8 to 10 mile an hour breeze. But tomorrow evening we have a 50% chance of precipitation with temperatures around the freezing mark. Thursday there's a slight chance of precipitation in the morning with temperatures in the upper 30s. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday should all be in the mid to upper 30s and maybe even some low 40s with a fairly good chance of rain on Saturday and Sunday. Well, over the break, the Jimmy men's wrestling team competed in the NAIA National Championships. The Jimmies finished 17th overall as a team. Sean Blumhart of Jamestown finished 5th place overall and earned All-American honors. Well, today's history headline, courtesy of History.com, is the assassination of Julius Caesar. On March 14th, 44 BC, more than 60 conspirators, led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, stabbed to death Gaius Julius Caesar in the Roman Senate. Called the Ides of March, the event would plunge Rome into civil war until Caesar's grandnephew Octavian emerged as Augustus, Rome's first emperor. But that was a different headline from a very different day. For tomorrow's headlines, tune into JCTV, where we're always striving to connect the campus with the community. I'm Matthew Nies, and I hope your evening is convivial. Good night, Jamestown.